Hi, and welcome to iHeart Cooking. I'm registered dietitian Jennifer Stachler.
And I'm Chef Dugan Wetzel.
We are brought to you by WCTV, RP&L, and Community Benefits at Reid Health. Today on iHeart Cooking, we are looking at heart-healthy breakfast ideas. So today on iHeart Cooking, we're working with heart-healthy breakfast bowls, and we have a couple different ones here. Some of the ones we're going to be doing is a tostada with avocado and eggs, and an avocado breakfast bowl.
Absolutely.
So a lot of avocados, a lot of eggs there, a lot of great nutrition that we'll get talking about here. But before we kind of get into the nutrition, let's get started with one of these recipes. And the first one we're going to get started with is the tostada one.
Absolutely. Corn tortillas are what we're going to be using. 6-inch, 4-inch, whatever you can get. These are almost like a street taco. These are becoming really popular.
Yes,
this
they
size. Pick them up at your local store. Very, very simple. They're going to go right into this pan. It's a foil-lined pan. You can spray this if you'd like. Actually, why don't we go ahead and do that? Because what that'll do is add that extra fat to kind of help crisp them up a little bit.
Absolutely.
So they're not totally dry. So just real light.
The nice thing about spraying is you can really control the amount that you're using, and you can find a lot of great sprays that are like that. You can get them in avocado oil, you can get them in grapeseed oil, you can get them in olive oil, a lot of different oils that add a lot of good nutrition with those mega and mono and polyunsaturated fats.
Yeah, so that's all there is to that. What we're going to do before we pop that in the oven, we're going to cut up, we're going to mise en place a little bit, get some of our vegetables ready. Really a rather simple dish.
Yes.
Very, very simple. So if we want to turn this on, get the pans heated up, going to go ahead, cut up an onion, do some peppers. Then we're just going to saute them in the pan, a little bit of tomato. And then by the time these are done cooked, the tostadas will be done. And then it's just all a progression. Make things done on time. Make sure everything stays hot and then ready to serve.
And that's something I think when you are dealing with something in the oven, you're dealing with something that's on the stove top, you have to cook some different things. It can make the recipe seem more complex than what it is, because you see all those steps and you're like, wow, that's too much. But in reality, it's actually not going to be too hard, especially if you get things in place. It can go boom, 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 and you'll kind of see us talk about that along the way.
Yeah, I actually like doing it this way because it kind of reminds me, especially dealing with peppers and onions, you don't want to overcook it because they just get really mushy. But they take about that amount of time to cook through completely. So once the oven goes off, you know, hey, it's time to move on. It's time to do that next step. So just a good little tip for at home. So those are ready to go. What we're going to do, you can kind of feel just standing here that the pan's getting warm. We've got some canola oil. We're going to go ahead and put it right in there. You can see, when it's cold or room temperature, it's kind of sluggish. It's kind of slow. But once it heats up, it looks like water in there moving. And once we hit that pan, it's really loose. Good indicator that it's about time to start cooking.
Absolutely. And you could hear it actually a little bit when you're actually pulling it in there as well, which is a really good indicator as well.
So while that's going, we're going to go ahead and pop these in the oven real fast. 6 minutes, 5-6 minutes, somewhere around there. And that'll give us an idea that our onions and peppers are cooked as well. Okay. So we'll go ahead and start sauteing our onions and peppers. Like Jennifer said, you'll hear it sizzle, you'll hear it pop. If you're unsure, if you don't, take just a small onion, a lot of water in there. And what's nice about that water hitting that oil makes that sizzling sound. So we know it's starting to sizzle. Time to add our stuff. So you want to move it around. Let that cook, let that soften up. But while we're doing that, we have one more thing that we're going to cut, and that is our tomato, which is our next step in this. So we can go ahead, slice the top off there. Gives us a nice flat surface to work with. Go straight through, and you're left with halves. You can go through it again if you'd like. And now this is totally your preference on this. Some people like the inside, some people like that jelly, the seeds, some people don't. So you can choose to leave that in there and chop this up, do a rough chop, so it's going to get cooked off there, or you can just take your knife and run it through. So then all you're left with is the meat part of the tomato. All the seeds, all the jellies coming out of there. Then you can just chop that up and add it into your onions and peppers. So just going to go real fast here.
And like Dugan said, that's preference-wise. One thing about being on a tostada is you might just want the meat, because sometimes if you get the insides, it can kind of going to goo
Real
out
soft,
a little bit.
yeah.
It gets soft. But don't throw those insides away. That's something you could use in a different dish, like a soup or in a casserole, where you don't have to worry about that because you're not eating it, per se, with your hands or something.
Yeah, you can add it to salsa, tomato soup, tomato or spaghetti sauce.
Absolutely.
Any of that stuff. It's,
Yeah,
you
so-
can definitely use it up.
Yeah, don't throw it away if you don't have to.
So real quick, we'll just slide them in. Saute those 1 or 2 minutes. You kind of just want to soften them up, loosen up the skin on the tomato itself, and then we'll add some cream cheese. Give it that mouthfeel,
Creaminess, yeah.
that texture that you're looking for. So we can see here some of those tomatoes are releasing their oil. What's nice is all those sugars and that acidity are going to really sweeten this up. Those red onions are starting to brown just a little bit to give you that caramelized flavor.
Absolutely.
We're going to finish it off here. We're doing about 2 ounces of cream cheese, a low-fat cream cheese. So if you want to just scoop that in there.
It's not a lot of cream cheese. It's going to add a little bit, some of those saturated fats in there, but it's just going to kind of bring the dish together and get that creaminess there.
Absolutely.
Which once we blend the avocado with the creaminess and we add some of the eggs here in a little bit, it all comes together very nicely.
Mm-hmm. Just going to get underneath that shell of the avocado with a spoon, scoop that out, and should slide right out for you pretty easily. And then from there, you can dice it up, you can mash it up, you can add the cilantro straight to it if you want and make kind of a guacamole type of spread. Totally up to you. I like tasting the avocado itself, that nice soft richness that comes through actually eating it. So I'm just going to cube this a little bit. Nothing huge. No big pieces, but nothing too small that it kind of just gets lost in with all of that.
And that's something, if you're new to avocados, sometimes a lot of individuals don't like the chunkiness right away or having that texture feel, that you could do like what Dugan said, kind of mix it together with the cilantro, make a little guac, and it might be a little bit more, an easier way of trying it before you actually just put a cube or something in there.
Right. Okay, so our timer went off again on the oven. I'm going to go check that real fast. Oh yeah. Tortillas themselves are starting to brown. They're moving around in the pan without any problems. Really, really crisped up, really nice, firm. They've really turned into a nice tostada.
That nice crunch there. Now that the cream cheese is also melted through here, we're going to take this out, put it in a bowl so we can get ready to do our eggs here.
So yeah, like Jennifer said, we're just going to cook off some eggs real fast. You can use the same pan. That's perfectly fine. A lot of times when you're cooking vegetables and things like that, it leaves a fond. It's called a fond on the bottom of the pan. What you can do, add your things to it and scrape it off there. That's just extra flavor going straight into the dish. Cracking the eggs. I crack them on themselves just because if I crack them on the side, there's a chance that the shells can slide in there. But if you hit them on each other, one is going to break, the other is not, but all the shell still stays together. So just if you're worried about getting shells in your food, grab a couple eggs, crack them on each other, and you should be fine.
I think it's kind of fun showing that trick as well, especially I have a 4-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son, and that's something that I'll do that trick and be like, watch, mommy's going to put these 2 eggs together and only one's going to break. And they think it's like the coolest thing ever, not knowing there actually is a purpose behind that.
So we're just going to whisk this together. And that will be ready to go. Set that on that paper there so we don't contaminate. I'm going to get just a little bit of spray in the pan just to make sure that it's not going to stick really bad. Okay. We'll put it back on the heat. I like to use a spatula when I'm cooking eggs, especially scrambled eggs, because I can get underneath there really well. Helps slide everything off the bottom of the pan. You can use a spoon if you want, but I have, just from doing it continually, found that a spatula works really well. Just constant moving, making sure you're pulling everything off the sides, off the bottom. You're just looking for nothing really loose. You want everything to be fairly firm, and then your eggs will be done.
Now that everything's ready, we're actually going to plate it. And so we got our tostado, our corn tortilla here. I did want to mention one nice thing about using a corn tortilla. It makes it gluten-free for any of those who are trying to celiac disease or gluten intolerance. Because it's made out of corn, it doesn't have that flour in there.
Absolutely. Yep. So we'll just go ahead. You can use a spoon. My hands are gloved, so we're just going to put a little bit of that nice warm mixture right on the top of the tostada.
You can see you get some color there.
Yeah, there you go.
Add a little bit of egg on top. Oops.
There you go. I got
And you got the gloves, so
yeah.
Get a little bit of yellow in there. Top with a little bit of avocado. Again, those good healthy fats. Adds a nice little greenish tint to it with the cilantro on top, and that is your tostados that you have. And that's something, one of these individually with a little bit of jalapeno on there, you're looking roughly around 220, 230 calories depending on the exact amount. 14 grams of fat. Remember, only 2 are only saturated fats. The rest are those mono and polyunsaturated fats. Approximately 15 to 17 grams of carbohydrates for those of you who are counting carbs, possibly for diabetes. So that's something, it's possible that one of these might not be enough for breakfast, and actually serving size probably be a good idea of having 2 of these.
That'd be great.
So one good heart-healthy meal breakfast we have here. We'll set that off to the side, get ready to start preparing our second heart-healthy meal we have. So with our first dish complete, we're now going to move on to our next heart-healthy breakfast meal, which is going to be an avocado breakfast bowl, which is similar ingredients that we're using. We got our onion and our pepper and tomato and avocado. One different thing we're adding, instead of that corn tortilla, we're actually adding pinto beans. So we're moving our starch over a little bit to something different. And also the nice thing about pinto beans, not only is it going to still give us that starch, but it has a little protein there as well, along with the eggs. We're going to add some different flavor profiles. We're going to add some cumin and chili powder to this recipe too. So similar ingredients, but yet just a little bit different of a flair to it. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
We're adding some oil here, about a tablespoon or so of oil. You can use different types of oils. You can use an avocado oil, grapeseed oil, an olive, or
Olive, canola.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Olive
there's
oil
plenty
is what I was
yeah.
thinking of. I'm looking at the ones that I'm trying to get some of those good healthy fats there for you. You can see the oil's warmed up. We're adding the onions in there. We're going to add those peppers in there, get them a little soft. You don't want to cook too long either. You want to have a nice crunch to this yet to the afterwards. You don't want it nice and mushy because it's going to be in a bowl with other things that have more of a softer profile there. So it adds different textures there. So just have to watch here.
So while Jennifer's stirring that, we're going to go ahead and move on and kind of prep some other stuff for the dish. We're going to cut up an avocado and a tomato. Going to be used as the garnish on top of our bowl. We're also going to use half an avocado to make a cream. So just going to real quick chop that up. So our tomatoes are chopped. I'm going to cut up this avocado. They're looking pretty soft. About time to add the pinto beans here.
Yep.
Yeah. We can go ahead and add those in.
So one thing you might want to look for pinto beans, if you use the canned version, try to find the one that is lowest in sodium.
Yep.
That way we can help deplete the amount of sodium that's in the product. We're adding flavor with the chili powder and the cumin here. One trick I use when I'm kind of looking at canned products to help lower the sodium intake is I'll find all the different type of, product or pinto beans that I'm looking for here. And so many companies make so many different ones. I'll take all the ones I think I like, I'll turn them around, and I look at the label. I'll look at the serving size, I'll then look at the sodium intake and find which one, whatever is lowest in sodium, so I can ensure that I'm getting less of that. Then when I get home, I will actually, on top of that, rinse all the liquid out of the can, rinse it with water to kind of help deplete more if that is the case. If you're using dry beans and you soak them overnight, you don't have to worry about some of those steps.
Yeah, that's actually a very good tip. Make sure that you're rinsing all of your canned products, because there is a tremendous amount of preservatives that keep it in there that allow it to stay in the can for years at a time.
Yep.
So always rinse that stuff off there. That way you know you're working with a cleaner product.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can smell some of that cooking here with the cumin and the chili powder. You can kind of see it coating some of the beans.
So we have chopped up our avocado. We've chopped up our tomato. Our beans are pretty much cooked through and ready to go. So we'll slide those off the side. We'll move to our next step in our recipe here, and that is to make our cream.
So we got a food processor here we're going to utilize to blend all the ingredients together.
Cutting up a shallot, very subtle, softer than an onion, smaller than an onion, obviously, but we'll still give you that onion, that like light bite that you would normally get from the onion without being too overpowering. So I would treat this the same way I do a regular onion when it comes to cutting it, but since we're using it in the food processor, I'm just going to strip it real thin because it's all going to get chopped up again. So you just want to make sure that it's small enough. Turn it, flat surface. There we go. And now that's going to get added into our food processor. It's real rough. There we go. Going straight in. Half of our avocado. We are using a verde salsa, a green salsa. Tomatillos are usually pretty prominent in a verde salsa. As you know, seasonings are the same, cilantros, the chili powders, the cumins, all that are in there as well. And we are going to use a almond milk as our flavoring, as our liquid.
One thing about almond milk, and it's an unsweetened almond milk we're using, is that it's lower in saturated fats, a little bit lower calories and carbs, so making it a little bit more heart healthy. If you want to use regular milk, you could do that as well. It's just another option to kind of show you what's available. Pop the top on here, and we'll actually just turn it on and mix it all together.
Consistency, I know people have certain textural issues. This is one of those things that you can adjust however you would like. If you like it a little thicker, you don't always have to put so much almond milk in there.
Yep.
If you're blending it and you think that it's too thick, easy thing to do, add you can add water, but there's no flavor in water. So use your milk, use your almond milk, whatever you're using as your base liquid. Just add a little bit at a time until you get to that consistency that you want.
Absolutely, and that's something I think you're adding this in with the beans, so some of that liquid's going to be absorbed a little bit, so you don't want it too thick at the same time. You want it to be able to coat everything. But there were some avocados that were stuck on the side, so I'm going to mix it up a little bit longer here, and it should be ready to go. All right, so that's mixed together. So we'll put this off to the side, wait till we're ready to plate everything together, and we're actually going to move forward and kind of work with our eggs now.
Yeah. Since this is a breakfast bowl, we're going to finish it off with a couple more scrambled eggs.
And while he's doing that, I'm actually going to transfer this mixture that we have in the skillet to a separate bowl because I want to use these same eggs in this skillet and to cook them off just to get the extra flavor that's still left on this skillet.
Absolutely. Just going to whisk them real quick. So we'll get that. Probably got a decent amount of heat. I'm going to give it just a minute here. So while we're waiting on that to heat back up, what we can do, we also have some really nice heirloom tomatoes.
Absolutely.
Heirloom cherry tomatoes. Very popular here in the last couple of years, especially to find these in almost every grocery store. Really nice. They've got a nice sweetness to them. Pretty much available year-round. So, you know, this is just a nice little thing. We're just going to cut them in half. For the larger ones, you may do it in quarters, depending on how well you like tomatoes.
Nice thing's going to add nice color to it and another texture here. While Dugan's doing that, the pan's ready to go, so I'm going to put some of these eggs in here.
So our garnishes are ready. Jennifer's cooking off our eggs here, and then we'll assemble when we're completed. What's really nice here is what Jennifer's doing is pulling all that flavor from the beans, all that seasoning, those spices that were on the bottom of the pan now are inside those eggs. So you're not losing any flavor. We're not adding salt to any of this whatsoever, but that chili powder and that cumin is going to basically permeate the whole dish now, and it's really going to be a nice flavor.
Yeah, and that's why the color is the way it is, because it is drawing some of those out from the skillet. So it's not like it's sitting on here or being burnt or anything.
Right.
Realize that it's just all those flavors that are in with it. So
Absolutely.
that's all done here. So we'll get plating.
First thing you're going to do on this plate, put your bean mixture down. And then on top of that, we're going to take some of these nice cherry tomatoes, get some greens, some yellows, some dark reds. Put those on top. Followed by the avocado and the tomato. With the eggs Jennifer's going to bring the
Add
eggs
the
over.
more of the protein on top here.
Yeah.
And this is where you can see if you have, thinking of a bowl, you're getting a nice mixture of everything and all different kind of vegetables, beans, your proteins, lots of flavors, different colors. You're looking at a dish like this, if you look at a serving, around 350 to 400 calories. A lot of good monounsaturated fats. We're adding the cream on sauce here that we had. Sodium intake, you're looking around 3 to 350 milligrams of sodium. And you're thinking, how is all that sodium in there if we didn't add any salt? You have to think like the chili powder, those types of things typically come with salt that's added in them. And then you have a little bit that's found in the almond milk. You have a little bit that's found in the actual beans because you're not getting rid of that completely. So there is going to be actually some sodium there. The salsa we added there, that's going to have a little bit of sodium. So that's, again, why we don't add any additional salt, because it's already incorporated in a lot of those foods. We don't need to add any more to increase that because all the flavor is going to be here. So we'll get everything cleaned up, bring back our 2 breakfast meals and heart-healthy dishes here, and give them a try. So we have our 2 complete breakfast, heart-healthy breakfast ideas. We have our tostados with our avocados and eggs, and then we have our breakfast burrito with avocados, pinto beans, your egg mixture. So similar ingredients, different flavor profiles. So we'll take a bite of them here. One nice thing I like about these is you can actually take a whole tostado and take a bite into it. You get the crunch of the tortilla, creaminess of the avocado and the egg actually mixture together. Flavor of the cilantro. That's a really, really light but really satisfying breakfast meal.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I like about this is everything's hot, but then you have that cream. It kind of balances all that heat. And chili powder and cumin aren't hot, but they have some spice to it, I guess.
Absolutely.
But that fat from the avocado really balances it really nicely. Everything's just a really balanced dish. Lots of nice soft textures in there, and then you got those heirloom tomatoes that give you that other contrast. But overall, very good.
That's why I say I like that, because it's like imagining a bowl instead of that typical oatmeal. We got some other flavor profiles there to kind of switch it up if you don't like the typical cereal and oatmeal. These are 2 great heart-healthy dishes.
They're wonderful.
Thank you for tuning in today to iHeart Cooking. We hope you enjoyed all these heart-healthy breakfast meals we prepared.
For more heart-healthy recipes, visit reidhealth.org/iHeartCooking.
We'll see you next month.